Hey guys, it's Astrologer Fiona Edgar here, and I thought that I would make a short video about the upcoming astrology uh, for the rest of the month and for April up until around May. So things are pretty crazy at the moment, all around the world, and everyone is confused and fearful. So let's take a look at the astrology and see what that tells us, okay? The astrology, we can use the astrology as a guide. Whatever is going on on Earth, on this plane, is reflected in the planets above us. So you call it what you want, call it a vibe, psychic weather, the atmosphere. So we can get an idea of that when we look at these transits. So if you're new to astrology, transits are simply the motion of the planets in the sky, and they make relationships with other planets. So they're either getting along, or they're in stress, or they're supporting each other, or they're clashing. And within those relationships, we see the fluctuations in our daily lives. So it's a really useful thing to be able to track transits. These transits that you can see on my screen, they apply to everyone. However, you will have your own personal transits going on. So that's when the planets in the sky will make some kind of relationship to the planets in your birth chart. And you need to really look at those as well. But let's take a look at the astrology for the rest of this month. So on the 20th, the sun enters Aries. Personally, I always look forward to this because Aries is a new beginning. It's the astrological new year in March when the sun and moon conjoin in Aries, the new moon. Things definitely become a little bit more clear when the sun enters Aries. We do feel more positive, but we have to understand that we are living in really weird times, and even though the sun entering Aries every year does generally make people feel more positive, and they're looking forward to spring, they're looking forward to the sun coming out, and they have all these plans for the summer and the warm weather. Well, we need to take into consideration that this coronavirus is causing complete craziness around the world. So yes, we will be feeling more positive on the 20th when the sun enters Aries. There may be more clarity that comes to us about this virus, or simply what our governments are going to have us do. Are we going to be quarantined for 3 months like I saw this morning, or blah blah blah. We will get more clarity on something. However, on that same day, Mars conjuncts Jupiter in Capricorn, and this is all happening on the same day. This looks pretty difficult, okay? There's something that explodes on that day, and it could be an increase in the virus, or it could be something else that's more difficult to deal with, like um, quarantines and that kind of thing. So a couple of days later, Saturn enters Aquarius. This is really big. This is a huge thing. So Saturn is entering Aquarius for a short period of time. Because it goes retrograde. It will go retrograde, and then I don't have it offhand, but I think it's going to re-enter Capricorn in December. Um, Actually, no, that's wrong. Sorry. Saturn enters Capricorn, I believe, in July, and then it will enter Aquarius for good in December. Yep. So what does Saturn in Aquarius mean? So you have to understand that Saturn is going to be in Aquarius for a couple of years. So what we're seeing now is a taste of that. I don't believe that we're going to be dealing with the coronavirus for the whole couple of years, but I do believe it's going to restructure our reality, and we are going to experience big changes to the world that we live in. So Saturn is entering Aquarius. Meanwhile, Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius, is transiting through Taurus. That literally means that our comfort zones, our realities are going to completely change. And I did say this in earlier videos before this virus hit. There's going to be no such thing as a comfort zone, okay? So you might as well get used to it. Um, Not to be blunt or horrible, I know everyone is like losing their minds over this, but really, what good is that going to do? You might as well get used to it. So Saturn in Aquarius quite literally means a limit on your social life. It means stronger borders. It means less freedom in your day-to-day life. So that could be, yes, while this virus is around, not being not being able to travel, not being able to come and go as you please, not being able to meet your friends or your groups or societies that you belong to. And that's going to be really difficult for everyone. But we kind of get serious in these areas, maybe where our borders and our boundaries have been a little bit too loose before. Saturn in Aquarius is going to help us with those. So, every silver lining. So, then we go on to these couple of days, the 22nd, the 23rd, which look quite nice. So, Mercury sextile Uranus, that could be good news on that day. Brief good news, I have to add. Venus sextile Neptune, those are good days for learning something new. Okay, you're in lockdown, you're sitting at home, you're working from home if you can. What do you do in your spare time? So maybe it's time for you to learn something new. Uranus is closely connected to astrology, so you could study astrology, you could take up your meditation practice that you kind of abandoned. Honestly, that is what I have done. I used to meditate every day. I did yoga every day. I did pranayama every day. So I did these things religiously every day for an hour for a good couple of years. But, life happens. You kind of fall out of that routine and you kind of focus on different things. But, in the last couple of days, being faced with the reality that there may be a quarantine over here where I live in Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I'm someone that gets bored pretty easily, so I like to be out and about. And if I'm not able to do that, what can I do here to make myself feel better? So the first thing that came to me was take up your spiritual practices again. Do yoga every day, meditate, do some pranayama. Do this every morning before you have your breakfast, and it sets you up for the day. I cannot stress how much it makes you feel really centered, really grounded, and just ready for the day, ready to tackle what is coming. So, on the 23rd of March, we also have Mars conjunct Pluto, which does worry me. This worries me because Mars conjunct Pluto is explosive, much like Mars conjunct Jupiter. So Mars is in Capricorn and it's conjuncting all of these planets in Capricorn, which we are connecting to this virus, connecting to the economic ramifications that this is going to have, which I'm worried about that, I have to say. So this is going to be a hard day. So take some comfort within your spiritual routine, your spiritual practices. Just getting out, getting away from the news. Stop living in fear and posting all these articles on Facebook. Like right now, I don't even want to be on Facebook because there are people who they seem to revel in this within this fear and oh no, we're all doomed, we're all going to die, there's going to be millions of people that die. Look, you don't know that. This could pass pretty quickly. Yes, people will die, but people, lots of people die of the flu every year, of cancer, of any number of things. Panic is not doing anyone any good. So stop focusing on that. Do something different. Learn something different. let this be the year that you learned this cool new topic that you became an expert in, and you will have that skill for the rest of your life. There are loads of courses that you can do online. You can learn computer programming. You can do literally anything you want. I have astrology courses on my website. So focus on something constructive if you're stuck at home. But yeah, this Mars conjunct Pluto, something is going to go down there. Then the next day we have Sun square the North Node. Then we have the new moon on the 24th of March. The reason why this is difficult is because it's conjunct Chiron, okay? So the next day the sun is literally conjunct Chiron. So these days are going to be, you're going to have to watch out for those, okay? So the 23rd to the 25th. And those days after that, until those aspects start to separate, although the new moon influence will be feeling that for a couple of weeks. So Sun conjunct Chiron. Chiron is the planet of wounds, of illnesses, but also of healing. What did Chiron do? You know what Chiron did? Even though he was different from the centaurs, the other gods, he was, just totally like unlike anyone else around him. He got on with his life. He didn't wallow. He didn't say woe is me. He just got on with things. He was a master, despite his wounds, despite being abandoned by his parents and all of that. He was a master of herbalism, of astrology, of magic, of healing, of music. So on these days, I want you to feel inspired by Chiron. Go and read the mythology of Chiron. Chiron didn't wallow. He got on with it. Yes, until he got shot by the arrow, which should have killed him if he wasn't immortal. But despite being deeply wounded all of his life prior to that, he got on with things. He was strong, and he helped other people around him, and he became a master of all of these really useful subjects and skills that he was taught by Apollo and his sister Artemis. So that's what I want you to do on those days. So these other days at the end of March, the 28th and the 29th, we get like a brief sort of period where we may get some enjoyment. Our love lives look good here. And I have to say, a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, well, we're locked at home. We don't want to watch the TV because it's full of negativity. What shall we do?" And yes, some people are predicting that there are going to be many births that occur in December, January, and February. So maybe that's what you do in those days. So further on the 30th of March and the 31st of March, okay, this looks difficult. Mars enters Aquarius, and then Mars is conjunct Saturn. So I honestly do think that we could be looking at other countries, or more countries will be looking at some kind of quarantine or lockdown here on those days. And it's going to be hard. We've never known anything like this. I grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, or the days of terrorism in the 80s and the 90s. And let me tell you, that was difficult because I was a child. And every day there were bombs going off, people were being shot. When your parents were watching the TV or listening to the radio, it was just death every day. You didn't know if you could go shopping and you were going to be blown up by a car bomb. So some of us have been through trauma before, and weird situations that deeply affected our lives. But this is still strange because during the Troubles, I still was able to go outside and play with my friends and kind of do what I wanted for the most part. So this is going to take some adjustment. With Uranus and Taurus, this is going to be lasting, okay? Taurus is the comfort zone. It's what you've always done. It's the kind of things that you've always got your comfort from. It's also money and wealth and finances and your work. Look, this is going to change things. There's going to be some economic collapse or something like that that's going to happen. Um, but we got through the last one. We can get through this one, okay? So don't lose your mind. So then, as we go into April, so Venus enters Gemini on the 3rd. So I want to talk about the fact that Venus is going to go into her shadow period on the 10th of April. This is important because Venus is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. It's going to feel like Mercury retrograde is continuing, okay, for months on end. The information that we get, none of us are certain what it is, what's the truth, what's going on. It's going to feel like that, like onwards throughout the retrograde. It goes retrograde in May, and the shadow is going to feel a bit like that too. But it's going to, if the Venus retrograde is going to be about money, because Venus rules money. Venus is connected to money, so that's something to be aware of. Because normally when Mercury is retrograde and we get out of the shadow, you can feel it, okay? You can feel like, oh my goodness, all of a sudden everything's okay again, everything's settled, we're all feeling fine. Look, the astrology this year is very difficult, okay? It's really difficult. Venus retrograde, and then we have Mars retrograde at the end of the year. Then we have all the stellium and Capricorn. We have the Saturn Pluto conjunction. It's weird. It's hard. It's going to be difficult. And I said that at the beginning of the year. This is going to be the year that none of us forget. Does that mean that we're all going to die and everything's going to be doomsday? No, it does not. Absolutely not. I do think that, karmically speaking, throughout the world, we have such a strong chance to shake off some of the bad guys or all of the bad guys this year. So I'm excited about that, but you cannot expect all of this to go on and not affect your daily life. So let's see. Yeah. So we have these small transits here on the 4th. Mercury conjunct Neptune, and then we have Venus trine Saturn. So there's kind of a big transit that's happening on the 5th of April, and Jupiter is conjunct Pluto. This is a huge deal, okay? This is going to be massive amounts of control and power over us by our governments. There may be a lockdown, there may be military on the streets. This is big, whatever it is. Mars square Uranus, that's a very unstable, erratic day. Be careful what you do on that day. You don't want to make enemies of anyone in authority, or you don't want to challenge that authority too much because it may backfire. So just be mindful of those couple of days. I think the stress is going to be getting to a lot of people by then. You may be having arguments with someone in your life or something like that. Just try and stay calm, okay? 7th and 8th, it looks a bit better. There's Mercury sextile Pluto and Jupiter. There may be good news. There may be news on those days that the virus is starting to wane, and there may be better predictions made about when this is going to go by the governments, when we can expect things to, when can we go back to work and things like that. There's a full moon that happens here on the 8th. It is a super full moon, so what that means is that the moon appears to be very close to the earth. I personally do think that it does amplify the energy. So these super moons are like a full moon, not an eclipse, but just an extra potent full moon. So full moon is when the sun and the moon are in opposite signs, and it highlights two opposing life areas that we need to kind of try and balance. So the full moon is going to be in Libra. The sun will be in Aries, so it's kind of like us versus them, or me as an individual versus us as a couple, things like that. Mars is involved here, so things may blow up a little bit, but things will get a bit weird as they always do around the full moon. So just try and try and stay calm. So the 8th and the 11th, there's some nice aspects coming in. We have Mars sextile Chiron. A sextile is a nice aspect. It's easy. It's something that doesn't need any effort put into it or work. And Venus sextile Chiron. So there's healing coming in here on these dates. So those aspects are also going to be present. All of these sextiles are present in the full moon chart, which is really positive. So on the 11th, Mercury enters Aries. Good. Okay. The reason why I'm saying good is because Pisces and Neptune are connected to diseases. And in Pisces season, when with the Sun in Pisces or Mercury in Pisces, it's been all about this virus, and it's been all about this fogginess and weirdness over communication and the information that we're getting in the media. I'm telling you, I do think that this virus is real, but the amount of people that don't believe in it and they think that it doesn't exist, that we have the media to blame for that, because we can't really believe anything that they ever tell us. So how do you expect to go from lying to the people to expecting them to believe this? It's the boy that cried wolf. I do think that it exists and that it is real, by the way. And I didn't get that information from the news. So when Mercury enters Aries, there will be more clarity there in terms of this situation. Mercury squared the North Node on the 12th. The Sun squares Pluto on the 14th. Mercury is conjunct Chiron on the 15th. This is going to be a little difficult period, these couple of days. So there's going to be some news that wounds us. And don't forget, we still have our personal lives going on despite this virus existing. We still have relationships and family and and friends. So I'm not going to really talk so much about those personal aspects of these transits today, but those will still be going on. But there's going to be a difficult period here. So there's a nice couple of sextiles on the 18th and the 19th. The Sun squares Jupiter on the 15th, which may kind of blow some stuff up. Like, by blowing it up, I don't really mean literally, although it is a possibility, but it just means that things are blown out of proportion. Things seem crazy all of a sudden, and it's on the same day that this Mercury conjunct Chiron occurs, so there's going to be something to deal with on those days. So then the Sun enters Taurus on the 19th, and usually when this happens, things become a lot more calm. We feel a bit more stable. I enjoy Aries season. I think it's refreshing after Pisces, because Pisces season can feel a bit like walking through mud. It's so thick, it's soupy, the energy is so intense, and it's hard to get anything done. But then when the Sun goes into Aries, you feel super motivated. But then things can get out of hand when the Sun's in Aries, and, well, we get stability from Taurus. So that's coming in there on the 19th. The Sun enters Taurus. On the 21st, the Sun squares Saturn. This is going to be a difficult day. I don't know exactly why. Astrology isn't fortune telling, it's forecasting the general energy on those days. So all I know is that on this day we will be feeling really heavy, because when there is a Saturn square in the sky, we do feel heavy. We feel like we're made of lead. It's hard to get anything done on a Sun square Saturn day, so don't plan anything if you can help it. It's a bit heavy, it's a bit depressing. Go and do something like watch some comedy, or play with your kids, or do something nice on those days. So on the 23rd we have the new moon. So let's see what else is going on here. Pluto turns retrograde, which is the energy is going to ease off. So by the 25th, when Pluto turns retrograde, this intenseness is really going to kind of start to wane. Hopefully that means that by the 25th the virus is going to wane. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it looks a bit easier. We still have a couple of squares here, and the Sun is conjunct Uranus on the 26th. So again, more issues with our comfort zones. Just stuff feeling a bit frigging mental. Mercury square Saturn on the 28th, so we're feeling that heaviness and just, I don't know, we may feel a bit depressed, that's all. But then, so as we go into May, uh, one of the most important things is that Venus goes retrograde on the 13th of May. Jupiter goes retrograde on the 14th. I think that that's going to be largely about the financial state of the world. There's going to be an economic collapse. I do feel, I see in this astrology that that's highly likely. I mean, how could it not? How could it not affect that? So by then, our focus may be more on the financial issues rather than, oh my God, I'm going to get a virus and I'm going to die. It's our energy is going to be more directed towards the financial side of things. Um, so I do feel, or I do see, hopefully, that this virus is going to be waning in May. There's a new moon there on the 22nd of May. And things are going to be weird for a while. Like, this whole year is going to be really surreal, and there's going to be lots of things for us to deal with, like our finances, our jobs. But you know what? Stuff like this has happened before, okay? We just have to make the best of it. It's going to be different no matter what, so you might as well take advantage of it. There's a lot of energy at the minute. You can write down your dreams right now, okay? Because there's so much energy to be tapped into. Write down what you want to happen. What do you want to do with your life when this is over? Like next year, do you want to make a business? Do you want to start a family? Do you want to change your job? Just try and use this time and energy in a positive way. I mean, if you're sensitive to energy, you're going to be feeling really out of sorts at the moment. I know that I am. I'm feeling this energy like many of you are. And to me, it feels similar to when there's been a terrorist attack. And all of this panic energy and sorrow, it's all whipped up around the earth. And people that are sensitive to energy can pick up on that. It can affect your health. It affects your work. It's hard to write. It's hard to focus. It's hard to do anything. So don't put too much pressure on yourself right now. But there are advantages to this. So write down. There's so much energy. Write down what you want to happen for the rest of your life in a positive way. And just keep that sheet of paper with you where you can see it. Make a vision board, put some pictures around it, and just manifest it. Don't get into the victim mentality or the fear mentality. Nothing in this life ever stays the same. Absolutely nothing. We all die. We all go through different changes in our lives. Just try and still enjoy your life. So that's all I have to say, really. I'm not really going to go into the rest of the year. I'll save that for another video. But I hope that you're all keeping well and keeping positive. So you can book a reading with me on my website, fionaedgar.com, or you can take one of my astrology courses. I have a mini course that will introduce you to the basics of astrology. And so you'll know what these terms mean that I talked about today. But I will be back soon with another video, and you guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon.